Hello, hello. Ender Sword here with the semifinals of the Defender League for ASL. Game is already underway. As you can see, we are here on Foxtrot Labs. Up here on the top left-hand corner of the map, we have from Team Templar Gaming, it is... And Saber will tell me if there's no names. But I assume
Neuralisk.
And his opponent in this luxurious best of 7 ZVZ is going to be our orange Zerg player down on the bottom right-hand side of the map. He is currently teamless, but he is a Knight of the Round Table, the Virgin one. He is...
Gallahad.
Both players opening relatively normally, no cheese or anything just yet in this game. At least we've got the gas already down for Neuralisk. No gas yet from Gallahad as we're still waiting on his hatchery to finish. Went pool first there. Both pools, of course, are done, and really no large mass of lings coming out, just a pair of lings for each player, making their way onto the field shortly. And of course, gas being mined by Neuralisk, not by Gallahad. So curious if he'll go up to 3 bases really quickly, or where he's going to go with the extra minerals that he will have available for himself. Both players, obviously it's Foxtrot, they know where each other was anyway, but have overlords in place to kind of see what's going on, but stopping just short to basically make sure that they can see if a large number of lings or anything is coming across in either direction. Queen for Gallahad has moved down, will meet these lings as they come in and start to take a few pot shots at them. The lings from Gallahad do trap those two before they get scouting information done, as Galahad's lings go in the other direction, kind of trying to do the same thing. And he'll be able to see that speed is underway, and will then get back there to see the Baneling nest. He easily could, but actually has kind of stopped this ling by the second gas here, which is not yet taken. The queen coming over to take a poke at this ling, and it's going to attack the queen. And it looks like due to that, he's actually not going to be able to pick up that information. So definitely would have helped him out to see that the Baneling nest was the thing that was down. But Gallahad putting down a spine crawler and the Evo chamber by his natural base. Kind of off to the side, not so much in a position that's like a forward wall, but still a bit of like a closer wall, and 3 queens positioned quite nicely there. If anything does try and rush on in. And we do have a large number of lings from Neuralisk making their way across, while Gallahad is trying to produce some on his own end of things, 24 of them coming out at the moment. The lings do get in here now, going to make a run for this main base, but trying to block them off is the lings of Gallahad here, and kind of splits that force in two a bit. And Gallahad does a really good job of splitting that up and just kind of taking everything out, leaves him with a fair bit of advantage in the army here. Banelings are being morphed in for Neuralisk up front. Gallahad can, in fact, see that. And 2 more spines are just about finished as the first group of lings does come on through. These Banelings trying to make their way into the mineral line here. Drones are being pulled off. They're trying to find a good point of contact here. Oh, and they're just going to come by into the main base. This isn't pretty if things stay grouped up, but still relatively well controlled here for Gallahad. 1 Baneling goes off, not actually killing drones though. Nice little moves to get the damaged ones out of the way, and we're running lower here on the Banelings themselves. 1 more does go off. That one was a fairly big hit, but still overall only 3 drones actually died. I think in the remaining 24 drones for Gallahad, there's probably like 12 hit points combined amongst them, but they are still alive. That could have been a lot worse had any one of those really hit with a little bit more. Well, obviously that's the force they have, but if anything had stuck around, if the splits weren't quite as good, then that could have been a disaster in the other direction. A roach one coming up to kind of help complete this quasi wall here. He's even got queens as part of a wall between the hatchery and the spine crawlers a bit. The lings on the far side blocking the ramp on the way up. It's very well positioned here so far by Gallahad, and Neuralisk is going to have to spin out of this. Is going up to a lair now, as obviously roaches are on the field. And not quite yet for Gallahad. Adding a baneling nest of his own, actually, up in the main base here. And this Overlord will see everything before getting picked off and dying right over top of the baneling nest that is being morphed in. And the lair started for Gallahad here as well. Neither player opting for a third base yet. They're both kind of in a bit of a scramble mode. Two spores, interestingly, coming down for Neuralisk here. I don't know what he saw that would indicate that was necessary just yet. Their lair is basically a long ways from being off, and he saw that the tech is in a different direction than that. So not sure what made him decide for the spores, but he is also deciding for the hatchery at the gold base here in the middle. This can be fairly vulnerable, again, just the way that the ramp and behind the mineral patch position here works, but is going for that nonetheless. Creep spread not really out for either player. Often matters less in ZVZ, but it does still give you a lot of vision. And obviously you can see queen mobility is going to be affected by not having the creep out there, so it can still be to your advantage to have it available at home. Gallahad just has his speed completed here now, as another Overlord swings on in to try and get a sense of what is going on. Is going to see that there's nothing like a spire or anything out, even though there are, once again, two more spore crawlers coming down for Neuralisk, and he's adding on a Hydra Den. Something just feels like he thinks a spire is what's going to be there. It's kind of interesting. Little supply block on Gallahad as the Overseer does fall. Which will supply block him for a little bit, now making 5 Overlords to try and compensate for that. The third base is just now coming down for Gallahad, which is going to put him a little bit behind, since Neuralisk already has his gold base actually up and completed, though no drones have actually transferred over at this point. Neuralisk does have a drone lead of about 13, so fairly significant, particularly once they do get mining up onto a gold base. Will make a fair bit of difference. Gallahad now clearing out these rocks to allow access to defending that location. And second Evo chamber is coming down. Upgrades currently at +1 attack for both players. No Carapace there. Neuralisk does have the roach speed, whereas Gallahad has not actually even started. Oh, sorry, it just finished, as I was saying. It is done. There come a lot of banelings right in the middle here that are going to accompany this roach attack, but there are a lot of roaches here for Neuralisk. Banelings do come in, will make a lot of big initial connections, but there are still a lot of roaches left alive here, and given that he's got the reinforcement advantage a bit, lings will come out for Gallahad, not yet joining the fight. The first little group does. The second group will come in and the roaches will push them back. This may be enough for him to push things back, at least to kill the third base, or perhaps cancel this upgrade here up in front. Roaches pulling back and clearing off the lings as a little bit of a flank comes out from the reinforcing roaches, and Gallahad kind of has to pull back without really getting a firm objective there. He could have finished off something like the Evo chamber or focused on the army, but a lot of the fire got split up into different directions, so doesn't come off with a big win, but he is retreating back to a fairly reasonable force, which moves down to the third base here. I don't know whether he's trying to kind of force him to commit to this and then kind of spring it on him. Neuralisk does back up out of that position. Neuralisk now with the +2 actually complete, compared to only +1 from Gallahad, compared to the 2-1. So the Carapace also there for Neuralisk on his end of things. The infestation pit is down and the lair is coming up as well for Neuralisk. So he's going to be able to continue on with upgrades or in other tech directions as he so desires. But we've got Neuralisk trying to fend off a bit of aggression or harassment there through the gold base. So far, that's been mining reasonably untouched. He had to pull the drones at one point, but other than that, it really has been quite established. And Gallahad kind of stopped droning a lot behind this third base. It's really just gone mostly into unit production, but now finally correcting that with a very big round of drones, about 15 being made at once there, which will finally go to work at that base and get some use out of it. But economy has definitely been in Neuralisk's favor throughout this whole game. Coming in on these spine crawlers before they do get up, one will get killed before actually popping out. Second one will be established here. Roach is trying to kind of swoop in and single shot that for free, but will get chased away by the other set of roaches. Infestation pit coming down for Gallahad here as well, and a fourth base being taken by Neuralisk. After what was a fairly early failed attack, Neuralisk is definitely kind of in the driver's seat on this one in economy, upgrades, army, pretty much everything here. Trying to get a good concave is Gallahad. He's got queens to support from behind, not yet close enough to these spine crawlers though in the back, but a much better concave. Trying to pull back into an area where these spine crawlers can help out, but it may be too little too late here. The queen's not using transfuses or anything, getting overwhelmed by Neuralisk's army, and Neuralisk may be in a position to just break the front here and take game number one. He's now just about double the army size. Reinforcements getting cut off as they do come in from the third base. The two queens are going down, and it's just roach to roach in front. Neuralisk does take game number one here on Foxtrot, and Hello. We are back here with game number two of this best of seven in the semifinals here. Up on the top left-hand corner of the map, we have our green Zerg player. He is from Team Templar Gaming. It is...
I got you, bro.
Neuralisk.
Where are you?
And down on the right-hand side of the map, a now blue Zerg player, switching from orange. It is the always noble Sir
Gallahad.
And both players did open with the pool first here, now both going for hatcheries right around the same time. Literally, I think, at the same second mark as one another. So quite lockstep so far in these builds. Deviation does come out, though, when Neuralisk takes the gas. In the first game, Gallahad certainly took his first gas a fair bit later than Neuralisk did, and got speed a whole lot later as well. So it looks like he's shaping up towards the same sort of opening here with a gasless move. Whereas Neuralisk is throwing 3 drones on there, transferring the queen on down to the natural base. And again, we don't see a big influx of lings or anything, just a pair out here for Gallahad. It doesn't even look like Neuralisk is going to bother with that. He's just droning up at this point, so not even wasting a single piece of larva on the ling defense, as he did in the last game, getting a little bit aggressive with lings and ended up losing them, even though he ended up winning that game. 2 lings will pop on in. A queen will start poking away at them, but they're going to get up into the main base, get a sense of what is going on. They do split apart yet again. Gallahad swing. He seems to have an aversion to going behind the mineral line. This is the second time like he's gone in the base and then intentionally split the lings up and then didn't like do a full swing around. I know he was trying, like there it was to go over C1 gas, come over to see the other gas, but if he had swung around, that's kind of where you see tech or you see what's researching or anything like that. a Roach Warren coming down for Neuralisk here in the main base, actually. So will not be part of a forward wall or anything, as it is for Gallahad, where he's got the Evo Roach Warren and Evo situation. 3 queens plugging up the front as a spine crawler comes down in the back. So Gallahad definitely likes these kind of defensive positions, whereas Neuralisk certainly likes the quicker third base. And often you'll see kind of the opposite in a way, that if you end up being a player that goes gasless, you kind of expect that maybe to go into an earlier expansion, but we've had the opposite end up being true here, with Gallahad opting for a later one, or not one yet at all, but certainly his expansion started right around the time Neuralisk third actually finished in the last game. This Overlord found a safe spot, but then moved on out of it as it does die. There comes the third here now, so not as far behind this time around, but and obviously not the gold base here, which I think made a fair bit of difference in the first game, where Neuralisk was able to get a lot of extra resources a lot quicker than his opponent was. Got double upgrades, range and carapace coming for Gallahad, and we've got range and speed coming on Neuralisk's side of things, so not opting to get a second Evo for carapace just yet. Little attack at this third, trying to cancel that off. Gallahad may have no way to stop this, and will probably have to cancel that, and he does here now, losing the drone as well. He just couldn't really, he's got a really good defensive position at the natural itself, but can't actually move away from that right now, as he just doesn't have the forces available to do it. So that's going to stunt his economic growth a fair bit for the time being, as of course Neuralisk has his up and running here, or not actually running yet, since no one is mining from it, but the larvae at least are popping up, and sometimes that makes all the difference in and of itself, as both players start to get their first rounds of roaches out. Just 5 of them popping onto the field for both players. But a little group of lings is still a bit of a difference for Gallahad there, which are just kind of guarding that third base position to make sure that it is not put down. And Gallahad does have to do something about that in the relatively short term, or else he's going to fall behind really far economically yet again. Gallahad actually making 13 roaches right now, also starting up his +2 attack before the +1, or just as the +1 finishes there for Neuralisk. Will have to push down and try and secure something so that he can get this third base up. Either that, or just decide to fully commit off of 2 and not do it. But if he delays much longer, then he's just going to end up being so far behind. We do have 13 drone lead already for Neuralisk. Roaches are making their way across, do get spotted obviously by this Overlord here, which will see them kind of muddle their way through it across the map. And army supplies are relatively even at this point. The lings coming back in to that third base get driven away by just a few roaches and a few queens, as the main contingent of roaches comes in. Maybe not the best starting position, gets shot on a few times as he tries to take the high ground, but Neuralisk realizing there's no reason for me to chase you up there. It's you attacking me, so if you want to go up there, that's fine. He's got vision of him anyway, so he'll know if he's going to move, and pulling apart that group here to get a really huge concave, and Gallahad is going to have to retreat completely with these roaches with speed done, chasing them all the way across, and he's going to lose so many just absolutely for free here, getting baited in as that roach force of Neuralisk did split itself up, losing more and more. Will have to turn around briefly to gather the rest of his forces, but Gallahad's just kind of throwing more good forces after bad here. It's he's had reinforcements coming into an already lost position, as it is going to get cleaned up here by Neuralisk. Retreat is not a possibility, and Gallahad, yeah, realizing the situation he's in, behind that. apparently does do that a fair bit. But here we are just inside the game. On the top left-hand side of the map, we have finally going Hatch first. He is our green Zerg player from Templar Gaming. His name is...
Neuralisk.
And on the other side of the map, with a pool almost done, it is now in the red. He's changed colors every game, I guess, until you find one that works. It is our teamless player,
Gallahad.
Oh no, deep roast.
and this time he did go for the pool first, now getting an extractor, and it's the earliest he's taken gas so far in this series, with 3 drones going immediately towards it. And it is the one game that Neuralisk, of course, delayed his the most, so this could be fairly interesting. We'll see if this is a speed attack, a banding attack, or what does end up coming out of Gallahad here. Only time will tell as the hatchery finishes for Neuralisk in his natural base. Has an overlord coming in, will spot the timing of the natural for Gallahad, so he's got some sense of probably when the pool went down there as well. Queen does pop out for Gallahad, and now at 100 gas, speed does start right on time. So it looks like we're definitely going to see some fairly early aggression here, but Neuralisk, despite having the actual spawning pool start a fair bit later, has speed on the way as well, with drones still mining from his gas. Behind the mineral line, we've got the Baneling Nest coming down for Gallahad here as well. And he did seem to have fairly good individual unit control, so I am eager to see him use Banelings here. Oh, Neuralisk does sneak on by Lings. Oh, the cancel here of that Baneling Nest to deny that scout by the Lings here. And he may just think that this is a speedling attack since he didn't see it, and it may well be at this point. No, he does put that down, but now the Baneling Nests are actually in sync with one another. It's got to look odd, even though he got in and didn't see the Baneling Nest actually building. He would see that gas was still being taken and was unaccounted for, so that may seem a little bit suspicious to him. Coming in is Gallahad, speed just about to finish here. He'll go after the spine and take it out before it does get up. Now surrounding the Queen here, which is tucked in by this Baneling Nest. And he may actually be able to stop the nest itself if he doesn't go after everything else. He is going after the transferring drones here, though, which may be the right decision. The Queen will go down here. Ling's now popping out for Neuralisk, but not enough at this point. Reinforcements do come in. He will chase him back down. Baneling's coming down for Gallahad, but there's no time for Neuralisk to really do the same. He's got Lings right on top of his, morphing in a Baneling with a decent connection here. He's going to come into the main base with a bunch of Banelings already done. Little bit of Baneling connections. There's a nice hit for the amount he's gotten. That may be enough to shut him back for the time being, at least. And a Baneling going off. Will he be able to defend this hatchery at the natural? I think he does have enough Lings at this point to hold it off. And as this does get cleaned up, we've got Neuralisk with 29 drones compared to only 16 held by Gallahad, and I think this attack is on its last legs here as Neuralisk now cleaning up these Banelings. One of them does finish. Nice little group just absolutely sacrificing themselves, but even though that last hit was inefficient, it does basically turn around Gallahad's attack, and he's got to go somewhere else from here. And he's going to be working on about a 10 drone deficit at this point. Neuralisk does have to remake his own Baneling Nest, though, in the main base, also sacrificing 2 drones for the purposes of these spine crawlers here. So he's not completely cost-free on this. Also lost the 2 queens. One of them now popping back up in the, or being made in the main base, the other one there at the natural, as he moves out with an expeditionary force of Lings, both about equal in size, so Neuralisk wanting to pull back to his own defender's advantage here. Gallahad, though, definitely has to kind of realize that this is over, and probably shouldn't make too much of a point of continuing on through here. He is getting a roach warren behind back at home, and will pull back here. He could, just a small group of lings from Neuralisk are going to try and chase down these banelings here and maybe able to get them. One of them didn't actually split off, so one of them does take the group out. Let's see if this wisely does split off this time around. He'll probably lose the 2 lings for that baneling, but now he's in relatively even numbers with the queen to help. Maybe okay here. More reinforcements are coming in for Neuralisk, whereas there's not much here for Gallahad, but it may be enough. Banelings do come in, and Gallahad actually calling GG right away here. I'm not sure that he does have to. Hello. Here we are in the 4th game of the series. Could easily end up being a 4-0, but our player up in the top right-hand corner does not want that to happen, sticking with the red this time and going for the pool first there on 15. It is our Zerg player,
Gallahad.
Game paused.
I know they're both Zerg players. We do have Neuralisk pausing here. We'll try and see what is up. It started lagging like crazy. Yeah, I found we had this problem last week too, that it was pretty, I don't know, ever since BNet does, every time it does something, things get a little bit worse. But we'll hopefully give it a second just to calm down. You can see from the individual unit control, obviously, that it's necessary to have quick responses to your units. And yeah, when your chat is actually lagging, that's pretty bad. You get it a lot in the commands, but hopefully that'll clear up. Okay. All right, so we probably resume, give it a shot, and see if we can avoid spikes or anything like that. Hopefully just temporary, and we are back here. Neuralisk is once again going for the hatchery first here, compared to the pool first for Gallahad. His own hatchery is coming down here now. Oh yeah, I talked about him but didn't actually introduce the guy because he paused everything. That's throwing off the natural timing of the world. But the player that could easily win this series 4-0, despite the predictions that Gallahad is going to reverse all kill, reverse 4-0 him on Team Templar Gaming. It is
Neuralisk.
And we've got Neuralisk spawning pool finishing up, obviously already done here for Gallahad. He is not going for gas this time around, so I do not assume any early aggression. So he hasn't really opted to full out cheese or anything to try and come back here. If he's going to win, it's going to be kind of the old-fashioned way and just kind of trying to take a game off his opponent. Quite, not that it's illegitimate to cheese, but you know what I mean. Just trying to do it standard, at least at this point. He may choose for a different tech path or something down the road. I think that might be interesting to see him try and pull out. As much as I don't want to see like a ridiculous Swarmhost game, it's an option. If you're losing a roach battle, then that's always a choice that you have. Could go for a mute attack instead and see if he can get anything done with that. Again, we have 2 lings breaking their way into Neuralisk base. The splitting up of those, and this time he will see that there is in fact no gas being taken And I think this was the first, or at least the longest Neuralisk has gone without having at least one gas taken for him. And we've got both players actually running gas free. The Gallahad will change that up now as he takes both in his main, and Neuralisk takes both in his natural here. And we get the Evo chambers coming down up front, pretty standard semi-wall-off type maneuvers by Gallahad. And no clear choice of tech path yet for Neuralisk. You've got to assume that he'll be going into Roach, but he's also got an awful lot of minerals saved up. Over 700 minerals actually saved up, and he's taking both gases in his main now as well, while a third is up for Gallahad. So is he thinking of taking another base or anything? Even after throwing down the Roach Warren and 2 Evo chambers up front, he's still sitting at like 900 minerals as Winnie the Pooh giggles behind me. Going up to the lair tech is Neuralisk. So he's going to attempt to kind of power out upgrades here and go pretty heavy into this. Gallahad is also going up to lair, but actually getting a banging nest and putting that one up front. So I won't be surprised. Well, double Evo may just be purely for wall off, and he may indeed be looking to go into Mutatech or something else behind this. Does have 4 gases running himself now and is not actually using very much of that, so that's going to be stockpiling up, whereas Neuralisk has gone for the double upgrade path here, and he is now moving out to take a third base and use up those extra minerals. One thing that could play a factor if this is a Mutaswitch, and it is a Mutaswitch, is the lack of creep spread that both players tend to not have. Or I guess if it's a lack, they do have it. They do have a lack of creep spread. We've got Neuralisk having it out front, like he's actually extending very far out front, but his main and natural actually still aren't connected. So if he finds himself having to run queens back and forth to deal with kind of a surprise Mutaswitch, then he could end up being a little stuck with the queens out of place if everything just kind of flies on into the natural to begin with. There's no Overlord in position really right now to see this Spire before it is finishing. So I imagine when it finishes in just about 20 seconds, we're going to have about 7 or 8 mutas make their way onto the field. And hopefully, for Galahad's sake, make a beeline basically for the main base would probably be the best target area at this point, or hit the natural and then bounce over, taking advantage of that lack of creep spread. Either way, it should be kind of an immediate attack if he wants to get the most out of it. The mutas are being rallied forward, and they are being rallied right to a point that Neuralisk is morphing in an Overseer Cocoon. Roaches are coming up around to attack the third base, and this will be quite interesting. Mutas are now popping out. They are there. But will he have to pull these back to defend himself at home, allowing time for spores to go up? And that's exactly what he's going to do, is leave them at home. And this is just the quintessential you don't want this position. When mutas come onto the field, from the moment they are discovered to when they need to be in your opponent's mineral line is about 2 or 3 seconds. So the moment they are pulled off to defend against this, or stop that, or pick off this Overlord, or kill this Roach, or something, it's way too late. And there's so many Roaches in here. Neuralisk is just going to end up closing out this series. Even though the Roaches cannot shoot up and have no way to defend themselves against the mutas, they are capable of basically killing this entire base before anything can stop them. Roaches trying to counter pop out and clean this up, but a lot of damage has already been done. Roach is still in existence for Neuralisk because they're going after drones here. The surprise of the mute attack is already gone. Even being outnumbered and with mutas in the air, still doing a fair bit of damage. Gallahad down to only 24 drones here as the natural is completely ransacked. And again, Gallahad still not actually really launching a counterattack here. If there's any time that he's going to get anything done, it's this second, as he does very briefly have an army that is to be reckoned with, but after a moment or two, that's not the case anymore. There are tons of roaches back out for Neuralisk, who is going after these rocks, clearing out quicker paths for himself. And now that creep spread, which hadn't connected the main and natural, is so far forward that he's going to have just speed advantages in every sense. Creep obviously does not speed up mutas, which are not really on it, and there's just spore coverage everywhere. The mutas aren't going to come anywhere near anything, and he'll be able to just, even if he doesn't decide to end the game, we'll be able to come in and pop this third base over and over and over, and there's going to be nothing that Gallahad unfortunately can do about that. Gallahad trying to make a macro hatchery in his main base as the roaches once again make their way in and just go directly after. I expected them to pop the third. They are attacking it somewhat, but making a line here against roaches as well as the ones in the back do take this out. Third does fall yet again. Even if these aren't done completely cost efficiently, if he's got 3 bases, then he can afford to deny his opponent's third. I think this force actually will get cleaned up again. Not many muses out, but enough to eventually whittle this down before he really comes in and makes a full-on devastating assault. But the fact that the third base is already gone is devastating enough. There's still a 50 supply lead here for Neuralisk, and it's almost all in drones. So his economy is completely bumping and just kind of overpowering that of his opponents at the moment. I think there is a very brief upgrade lead here for Gallahad for about 30 seconds maybe before the +2/+2 is done for his opponent. The mutas coming out, killing another overlord, but again, these mutas have just been nothing in this game so far. He had to reveal them and then kept them back home for enough time for spores to just go up everywhere, and he hasn't even tested that. I think once he realized he had revealed them and that his opponent had time to prepare, he hasn't even bothered to test the defenses. I think he just assumes that obviously spores are everywhere by now, and he hasn't attempted to make more there either. Nice transfuse on that queen, trying to keep it alive here as the mutas also don't die but have to be pushed off that position. Neuralisk being quite patient here, and Gallahad at least wisely droning himself back up a fair bit. A lot of players would kind of get into a panic mode and think that they have to make army, and army only. But if you're not going to make the drones to get back into the game, then the army is really of no use to you in the first place. We do have Neuralisk going up to a hive tech here, and just so much farther ahead on the roach count, 49 to 28. He's even got obviously the burrow swimming here as they all dive underground and start swimming underneath the creep. And you can expect them to make a beeline basically for that third base yet again, actually pulling half the force out. I think he is expecting when the that one can't get too close as there are overseers there. He will just dive right into the natural as this one emerges at the third. I think he meant to do that the other way, but either way he'll get the result done. That the third base will go down yet again. I think the intention there had been for this main force to attack the third, and then when the army pulled over to defend that, the underground force dives into the main, and then the game's over. But I think we're over here regardless. Over 50 supply lead for Neuralisk. Great concave. The mutas in the air just do not matter at this point. Definitely not with +2 carapace do they matter at all. And they just take too long to kill this stuff. And at this point, without a third base, Gallahad can keep holding, but it doesn't matter eventually. He's going to be mined out. His main has all but mined out, just 2 mineral patches left there. Nowhere really for the drones to actually go at this point. He's trying to remake down at the alternative third base here, but a fourth is already up for Neuralisk on his end of things. He's absolutely unassailable in his bases from the Mutalisks, and Hydras are now in the field. So the next time Mutas come close to this army, they're going to be picked off out of the air, and I think that's going to be the last. That's really the last thing he has that's actually holding Neuralisk off. We've got exactly double, I think, for well, much more than double now here for Army, but more closer to triple at this point, as he does catch a lot of these drones transferring over. And Gallahad does call GG. Neuralisk does take the night in a 4-0. The games weren't as one-sided as the final score is going to be, but Neuralisk certainly showing that he is dominant in this, and Gallahad good mannered till the end.